With this being Hispanic Heritage Month, we hear from an up-and-coming Latina. She was named by Latina magazine among the Future 15 Latino entrepreneurs with a mission to empower one another. Meet publicist, author, public speaker, Elvira Guzman. Hi, nice to see you.
Hi, nice to see you too.
I got to show off your book, which I have thoroughly marked up here.
Thank you.
Growing up here in Los Angeles, did you think you would be with those all credentials that I just listed?
Absolutely not. I couldn't have imagined a life like this.
I remember reading in your book, you talk about being in high school and you got jumped.
Yeah.
And the girls who jumped you didn't know you were a black belt.
Yeah, they didn't. Yeah, it was really scary. I was in volleyball practice, and I knew that the girls were outside. And it just so happened that one of my coaches, he was a police officer, but for a different district. And he said, Elvira, there's nothing I could do until they put their hands on you, and then I could retain them. And so I was scared the entire volleyball practice. And when I went out, I knew what was going to happen. But luckily, my parents trained me well. So
the reason I bring up that story, and kind of like a random story to just throw out there, is that I'm really big on that concept of empowerment and young people being able to defend themselves in this era, or having the awareness to not escalate things, and that you learn that through martial arts. Yes?
Yeah, absolutely. You only use force when you absolutely need to use it. And in that circumstance, it was something that I couldn't avoid it. And I tried to talk to the girls. I said, why are you doing this? And the girl said, if it's not me, it's going to be somebody else. So, and it was one of my friends. And so it was really hard to have to fight your own friend because of the neighborhood that you're from.
I think that this story just kind of sets up where you came from.
Yeah.
And how you grew up and what was around you, and it just shows people too about getting out of where you came from and being bigger and better. What do you attribute your success to?
Well, because of my background, I had a lot of those instances. That was just one time that happened to me, but I had been approached many other times for fights, and I just knew that this wasn't the area that I wanted to be in. I knew that this wasn't my future. And so that's when I looked for outside ways, and for me, radio was a way for me to get out of my neighborhood, and that's where I ended up meeting Steve Harvey, and
kind of things took off from there.
Yeah.
Because you held so many positions with Steve Harvey. Yeah. But I still want to get back to growing up, because thinking about getting out of a situation or a neighborhood is so difficult, especially when you think your parents were incarcerated when you were in high school.
Yeah.
What happened?
So when I was 14 years old, I was at basketball practice, and my parents didn't come to pick me up. And I had a gut feeling that something wasn't right. And they told me at that moment that my parents might do 20 years to life, and it was unfathomable. I was 14. I couldn't imagine 20 years because I hadn't lived that long. And so it was really, really difficult. And so it was at that time that I realized that education was my key out. So instead of being an average C, A, B student when I was in junior high, when I went to high school, I started getting straight A's because I wanted to go to college. I wanted to get out of my neighborhood some way.
The fact that you could be empowered through that situation just amazes me, which is, I think, why you're here. So your parents got 5 years each, you said, yes?
Yeah.
On drug charges?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So during that time, and this story amazes me too, you lived on your own, kind of?
Yeah, my sister was my legal guardian, but she was 21. So just imagine a 21 taking care of a 14-year-old. There's not much guidance there, and she was just starting out as being a teacher, so she had a lot of things to do. And so it was, but by that time I was almost like an adult. I was working in my parents' businesses prior to that, so I knew what it took to make it in the world by that point.
At 14? At 14. Okay, so I love the fact that you actually go back and speak at Central Juvenile Hall. What message do you give the women, the girls, because they're girls still, what message do you give them?
To not give up, because there were so many times during 14 to right before I graduated USC 21 when they were released that I wanted to give up. And I had to say, okay, it's going to be hard just for this moment. It's not going to always be hard. And so I talk to the girls about that, and I tell them, raise your hand if you feel like committing suicide, or if you've ever felt like you just don't want to proceed, because there's not a light at the end that you could see right now.
Because you felt all that?
Yeah, absolutely. I tried to take my life a few times, and it didn't work because I have a purpose, and I hadn't fulfilled my purpose by that time. And so God made me stay here, and I'm still doing it every day.
And you do write about God in your book.
Yes.
Yeah, and also in this book, which is amazing to me. It's a very easy read, for one.
Yes.
You talk about your true purpose in life.
Yeah.
What is your true purpose?
My purpose is to help other people find that, and to help them get to the core of why they were brought to this earth by God. In corporate America, I worked in corporate America for 9 years, and I saw so many people who were lost. They thought that their purpose was their career. But that wasn't it. It was, maybe it could help you or could facilitate it, but for many of them, it wasn't it. And I'll give you an example. I had met many lawyers or doctors that they just did that career to please their parents or to please society because it was a job that was suitable for their type of family. But in reality, they really wanted to be an artist, or they really wanted to go and give back and speak, but they weren't brave enough. So I help people do that.
So I love the fact that you are officially a celebrity publicist, driving a very fancy car, but you also write in this book about giving back, and if you don't have money, something as simple as, let's see, page 109, pick up trash at the beach, feed the birds. You're really an advocate of people giving back?
Absolutely. We're blessed to be a blessing, and if we don't, then God will take away everything that we have. And that's one of the things that I happen to do, is to go feed the birds on Sunday, and then I go and I pray. Also, when I see, for instance, a man walking down the street and I could notice that he has a limp, I'll say a prayer for him in my head while I'm walking by, and I say, Lord, please help him so that he could walk better. And it's just little things that you could do that aren't necessarily, you know, dedicating your time or giving money, but it's just those little things.
All right, in 10 years, you want to do what?
I want to be a talk show host, and I want to interview authors, thought leaders, and I want to interview celebrities, but not to talk about their movies or all their money, but I want to talk about how did they get through their hardest time? How did they make it in the industry so that they could really help out some of these people here that feel that they have no hope?
Well, I read that a favorite book of yours that I'm also reading is Super Rich by Russell Simmons, the music mogul.
Yes.
And he talks about kind of being spiritually centered so that you can get through these tough times. What was the lesson you got out of this book?
Well, to give away your gift for free, and eventually people are going to pay you for it. So one of the lessons that he says there for music artists is to give away your first CD for free, or your first single, and then make people demand your next project. And people will pay double, 3 times, $100 just for something that could have been 99
So
cents.
whatever gift you have, give it. All right.
Yes.
Elvira Guzman, keep an eye out for her, recognized by Sister magazine as an urban influencer. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.